You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. We've got a lot to talk about. Tennessee. All right, when is it not Tennessee? But I realize so. Tennessee's going to have trouble stopping the run against Kentucky, which is a bold and outrageous thing to say. Tennessee, I mean, it is and it isn't. Tennessee's a complicated team. Nothing with this team has ever been simple. Nothing with this team, this 2016 Tennessee Volunteers football team, will ever be simple. This is not a simple team. And as such, the reason why they're going to have trouble against Kentucky is a multi-step problem that requires a little bit of the breaking down. And Butch Jones, of course, is in the unenviable position of coaching to keep Vols fans happy, which is unfortunate considering how the season started. The season started with he's coaching because he could make the playoff, right? Like the expectations were there, they were high, and they were meeting them, and then suddenly they aren't, and it's a little scary where we're headed to next, right? And Kentucky is a football team that can score. Now, they're not going to stop you from scoring, but they can score, and they could score on the ground, and you would think that this wouldn't be a problem for the Vols, but it kind of is. And I will get into that in just a little bit. But first, I'd like to tell you about where you can find us and where we can find you. Social media is a great place to start. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you know the places. Search Hot News Talk Radio in those places. And if you would like, give us a favorite, give us a like, follow us, whatever it is that you've got to do to make that happen. We had election coverage yesterday. It's all on Facebook. Check us out on Facebook. And you can stream the show while you're there. So there's that. You can also check us out, by the way, on noogaradio.com and the TuneIn Radio app. That's noogaradio.com and the TuneIn Radio app. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio in the app. Give us a favorite. Press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. That's Hot News Talk Radio and the TuneIn Radio app. Listen like you mean it. So, well, first off, the election. America, you're an interesting place. That's all I'm going to say about that. So I feel like I could have said that regardless, but you are a fascinating place, America. So, the Vols have a problem, and that problem is defense. That problem is specifically run defense, which on the face of it seems like a ridiculous thing to say because the Vols are one of the better teams overall in terms of stopping the run, and yet they aren't. What could I mean by that? Well, when I say they're one of the better teams for stopping the run, they are on most of the carries that they've gone up against this season, right? All of their opponents have had 380 rush attempts. Of those 380, 358, the Vols have only allowed 2.8 yards a carry. Most of the time when you run against Tennessee, you're picking up on average 3 yards. That's all you get. 3 yards, 2.8 yards a carry every time you play the Tennessee Volunteers. That's great defense. That's fantastic run defense. So what's the problem? Why am I calling out the Vols in their run defense? Well, let me tell you something right now. Of the opponents that the Vols have played this season, they have allowed five 100-yard rushing games against opponents. Well, how can that be? How can that be? They allow only 2.8 yards a carry, but they're allowing several 100-yard rushing games against the teams that they are playing against. How could that be? Because of the 358 rushing attempts against them, they give up 2.8 yards a carry. So those other 22, the 22 that gets you from 358 to 380, Tennessee has been really bad. Defensive coordinator Bob Shoop said they've been, quote, atrocious. And no wonder, because on those 22 carries, Tennessee gives up a ton of yardage. And it's always the back-breaking play. It's always the play at the wrong time. And the Vols can't ever seem to capitalize on momentum, or they seem to lose momentum, or give the other team momentum for the carries that they have, that they give up big yardage and big plays. Tennessee's defense cannot stop the big play on the ground. Yeah, you run the ball 30 times against them, and they'll stop you 20, 22 times. But against even South Carolina, and South Carolina has been pretty successful running the ball, and more successful than you'd think, right? Despite this, Tennessee hasn't been able to stop the big play or slow anybody down. This is a problem because you're playing Kentucky. And what does Kentucky like to do? Kentucky likes to run. Check that. Kentucky loves to run. And they've got a Wildcat package and everything. Now, you know you are committed to the run when you've got a Wildcat package. Like there's certain teams that if you are committed to the run, there's just certain plays that a certain playbook you're gonna have, right? If you run the triple option, right, you are committed to the run. Absolutely. If you line up frequently in the pistol formation, you find yourself using a lot of read option, and you wouldn't be alone. You're committed to the run. But the Wildcat was designed for one thing and one thing only: running the football. Like, you can really pass the ball out of the triple option and scare a lot of people. You can really devastate a lot of people with the read option, especially out of that pistol formation. But you run the Wildcat. Can you throw the ball out of the Wildcat? Yes, you can. Do you typically throw the ball out of the Wildcat? No, you do not. The Wildcat is for running. And, the NFL shut that down. Like, we talk about the NFL and how when teams started running the Wildcat in the NFL, it got figured out. Well, that and the NFL slapped on a bunch of rules that made the Wildcat super difficult to run in the NFL, and that killed it. Because you could run the Wildcat, and it's very effective. Now, the Wildcat as a formation can be defended against fairly easily. Otherwise, everybody would run it, right? It can be stopped. But what the Wildcat formation does is gives you an opportunity for those big yardage plays, which I told you before, Tennessee cannot stop. Can't stop it. That's a huge problem for a team that starts slow typically, ends up playing from behind often. Giving up those big plays are part of the reason why you end up down early and why you're playing from behind often, and why in the last 3 out of the last 4 games, it's been so difficult to catch up. Tennessee would make a big play. They turn around and give up a big play. You can't catch up doing that. And I still don't buy into right now Tennessee being a team that can give you a complete football game, okay? Because a complete football game against Tennessee Tech is not telling me very much about you. All right? I'm not trying to be a downer on Tennessee Tech. I know people who go there. However, as a football school, Tennessee 55-0, styled all over Tennessee Tech last week, and you're looking to put that in the rear view, get your confidence back. Like, okay, yeah, we can play football, but you're playing Kentucky now. Georgia just barely escaped Kentucky, and you just barely escaped Georgia. And I know transitive properties don't necessarily work that well in sports, But this one kind of does apply because Tennessee's defense has been shaky. And when you look at their defense play, you look at them and they're making big plays. It's not like they failed to. It's not like they're not getting stops. They are. Like they're even getting the stops that they need to in moments of desperation. But they are giving up big plays at an alarming rate, especially on the ground. You cannot do that against Kentucky, or you will find yourself having a long day. And Kentucky has a penchant for winning shootouts. They really do. Okay, combine that with the history that you have with Kentucky, which you'd think that the Vols would be smashing Kentucky to smithereens because, Kentucky hasn't won in Neyland in, damn near 20 years. It's been a while. It's been a very long while. And with all that, you'd think, okay, yeah, the Vols would own this. But there's been a lot of close upsets and a lot of close games over in Neyland with Kentucky visiting Tennessee that, quite frankly, indicate that this is a team that could beat you. And this year has not been your best year. You still are recovering from that whole rash of injuries. Like, this is not all on the coach and all on the players. Some of this stuff has just been bad luck. But some of this stuff is going to come back and bite you whether or not it's your fault. Like, understand that that's a distinct possibility that Tennessee could lose to Kentucky, and it wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. Not anymore. Like, after that South Carolina loss, a lot of things about Tennessee, I think, became visible, right? They were always there. You could always see them, but I feel like the close victories blinded everybody to the problems with Tennessee. And then the games that they played, they had the close game against A&M. They could have won that one. Like, that game could have been another game in that list of, oh my gosh, I can't believe Tennessee did that again. Then you get waxed by Bama, but you can't even feel bad about that because everybody's getting waxed by Bama. And then you lose to South Carolina in what looks like the obvious trap game. You are better than them. They beat you. This game against Kentucky is not a trap game. Every single game that Tennessee plays, they look worse and worse. It's not a trap game. Kentucky feels like they can beat you. And if you give up big running plays to that football team, they will beat you. Fact. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. I got an SEC question because I like how at the beginning of every year, everyone starts talking about the downfall of the SEC. They don't want that conference to be considered the best conference in college football. Say that. And we're bigging up the Pac-12. And we big up everybody else. And look, the Big Ten's doing things, and then, Ohio State goes in there and drops Nebraska. Oops. Nope. Just absolutely hammers Nebraska to the floor. Woodshed beating. What we call out in Texas a good old-fashioned butt whooping. Just drops them. Like, it's almost unbelievable the level at which they got dropped. Almost unbelievable. It is actually quite believable when you look at it. It is actually very, very believable. But they got dropped. Big Ten, not looking so great. The disparity between top and bottom of that league is pretty bad, and especially when you consider, Ohio State, best team in the Big Ten, they're ranked number 6. And they're beating up the number 10 team in the nation? Like, the difference between Alabama and the worst team in the SEC, that's pretty bad. But at least Alabama's the best team in the nation. Gee whiz. So we get this conversation. And I remember we were like 3 weeks into the college football season, and the sky was falling. All the national guys, all the doomsayers, they're all going on about, oh, look, the SEC, they're off to a slow start. They've got a losing record as a conference. And then, the football season happened. This is why you don't make week 3 prognostications. The football season happened. And everybody's wondering, or everybody stops wondering what's happened to the SEC. And I was waiting for everybody to sort of revisit this, like, never mind. All's right in the world. It all makes sense. The SEC's back on top. And nobody mentioned it. Everybody just kind of walked away from the conversation because everybody wants the SEC to be really, really bad. And to be fair, SEC fans are not exactly the most humble people about the fact that the best college football gets played in the Southeastern Conference. There's no humility here. It's like collectively, the entire fan base of the conference becomes Bama fans. That's why people don't like you, Alabama. It's not because you win. It's not because your coach looks constantly constipated. I mean, Nick Saban does look constantly constipated. You can't deny that. It's not because of that. It's because you don't win with any grace. You win, and we all have to know all the time. Like, we didn't just watch the game with you. Like, I'm still hearing it from the 2009 champion, Alabama Crimson Tide. How is that possible? Yeah, just because you beat my team in the game? Fine. I don't need to hear about it a full, 7-8 years later. Are you insane? Have some grace with that. SEC fans act like Bama fans when we start talking about conferences. No grace whatsoever. And as a conference, the SEC is rocking and rolling, and nobody's talking about it because it doesn't fit the narrative of this SEC conference that's falling to pieces. And look how bad it is. Is the disparity between the top and the bottom wide? Yes. Is the disparity between East and West wide? Yes. But you'd be hard-pressed to find another conference that doesn't have that. Right? Like the North and South of the ACC, that's a bad gap. The divisions in the Big Ten, also a bad gap. The divisions in the Pac-12, also a bad gap. It's a bad gap, whatever league you're in, except for, the Big 12, because they don't have any. It's a bad gap. And the SEC, with an overall record as a conference of 75-49, and I'm not one of these guys that champions rooting for a conference, but I'm not an SEC fan, so this just always strikes me as interesting because I'm always waiting for them to come back and go, you know what, never mind, we were wrong about the SEC dying. Never mind, but they never update on it. You know why? Because nobody likes to admit that they're wrong. The SEC is not dying because of just a handful of games that they lose 3 weeks into the season. The larger the sample size gets, the more that you see the SEC is the best conference in football. They have the most wins. They're tied with the ACC for 75. They have the fewest amount of losses. They only have 49. Okay, I mean, the fewest losses for having played that many games. They play more games than everybody else in college football to this point as well. Despite all of that, they have a higher winning percentage. Their strength of schedule is the second strongest. The Pac-12 has the best strength of schedule. And according to sportsreference.com, their simple rating system is a rating that takes into account strength of schedule and average point differential in that strength of schedule, of which the SEC, of course, is number one. It's the best conference in college football. And people are tired of hearing it and want to wait for the day that the SEC isn't the best conference in college football. But for 3 years now, because I hear this conversation at the beginning of every college football season, and I'm starting to get a little sick of it. The SEC's dying. Oh no, the sky is falling. And then we get to week 8, week 9, week 10, and who's the best conference in college football again? The Southeastern Conference. Time and time again. Do they ever get tired of having that conversation and then being wrong about it annually, or do they just forget? because it is a true, I mean, I understand you want to be controversial for radio, but it can't be controversial that the SEC is dying every single year and then it's not true. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. We'll get back to more football talk and a little bit of hoops next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Is your career taking you where you want to go? If not, talk to Covenant Group Insurance, especially if you like helping people. Call and learn how you can work for yourself, but not by yourself. Intense but free training, plus a fantastic lead program, plus office support equals your success, your prosperity. Gross at least $75,000 your first year selling insurance. Call Steve or Jada for a confidential interview. That's 855-8484. Maybe the most important call you'll make all year.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
A $500 gift card.
$500? What?
That's right, Bunky. A $500 gift card from a store of your choice. The agents at Exit Realty Scenic City are confident they can sell your house. They can do it in 99 days or less. If your listing proves a slowpoke, they will give you a $500 gift card. No one works harder for you than agents at Exit Realty Scenic City. Licensed in Tennessee and Georgia. Exit sells quickly all types of commercial and residential properties and vacant land. Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. Training, technology, branding, culture, and financial freedom. Again, Exit Realty Scenic City. Call 423-551-EXIT to learn more. Call 423-551-EXIT and learn more.
Terms and restrictions may apply.
Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis has the cash when you sell gold, silver, diamonds, rings, and jewelry. Sell Rick your precious metals today and lock in your price. Hey, Rick Davis will trade your cash for shiny, brilliant, and heavy gold. Gold cheaper now by $100 an ounce. Join the Rick Davis Silver Bonanza too. Prices so low, the Lone Ranger is bound to gallop in, Kimo-san.
Hey-ho, silver, away!
The markets are changing, so buy now. Cash, 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 and more cash for your silver and gold, gold, gold. Rick Davis, 5301 Brainerd Road. That's 5301 Brainerd Road. Rick Davis Gold and Diamonds. Oh, and cash, cash, cash. You know where it is.
Hey-ho, silver, away!
Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. The election results are in, and Greg Martin has defeated Joe Smith for a county commission in District 3. Wilkinson and Gardenhire had a tough battle in Hamilton County, but Cleveland was the deciding factor for Gardenhire, giving him the win. Scott Desjardins and Chuck Fleischman also winning their re-elections. In Saudi Daisy, incumbents Shipley and Adams winning the commission contest. On the presidential side, Donald Trump winning big in Hamilton County and Bradley County. Keep it tuned here for more election news. And 270 acres of woodland are still burning at Flipper Bend, Mowbray, and heavy smoke is causing air quality problems for Hamilton County, now advising that you stay inside in areas where you can smell smoke. Bulldozers are constructing fire breaks. So far, no structures have been damaged by these flames. A home in Ottawa on Tuesday caught on fire. The police call came in at 9:30 a.m. The home is a total loss. The Red Cross is assisting the family. You can make a child's Christmas wish come true by donating a toy for the Tennessee Baptist Children's Home. Stop by Chick-fil-A and check out the tree. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
Expect clear skies to continue through your nighttime. Chilly overnight, lows 37 to 41. Now for your Thursday, a beautiful day. Lots of sunshine, comfortable, high 68 to 70. Continue pleasant, but still dry through Friday, high 70 to 72. Check out Taco Bell's new rolled chicken tacos. They've got marinated all white meat chicken rolled up in a crispy shell with your choice of 5 delicious dips. They're so easy to dip, so hard to put down. And I'm Storm Sheen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Martin Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops a right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Hear it live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station. Hot News Talk 1240. The voice of NASCAR.
So I have some thoughts on Jared Goff. But I also have some thoughts on Steph Curry because he's a bad person for what it is that he's doing to the NBA. It's still not fair. We were wondering, like, how is it going to be with that team, honestly? How's it going to be? Like, you've got 3 stars, 2 guys at that superstar status, Clay at all-star status, Draymond Green is at all-star status. How are you going to share the ball on that team? Yeah, you're just going to have nights where guys go off and everybody else can fill in the cracks. And you know they're going to fill in the cracks. Like, because you ever see those games where somebody's just going off and then you look at the score and they lose? Basically every game involving Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, 50 points. Yeah, and they lost by 10. And it's not like Anthony Davis is out there beating his chest or anything or showing off. You just feel bad for the guy, if anything, because the dude is out there playing about as hard as anybody could be playing. He's playing his heart out. And you know what? He's out there losing by 10 points. He drops 50 points in a game in today's NBA as a center and can't get the recognition and the love that he deserves because he out here losing by 10 points. And why is he losing by 10 points? The rest of that team is garbage. The rest of that team is garbage. You never have to worry about that if you're Steph Curry. That's your Steph Curry. You can go for 46 points. You can shoot 13 threes, break your own record, and still come away on top. And you know why you can come away on top? Because the other guys scoring the ball are Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant. And Zaza Pachulia, who's not playing bad for them offensively. Zaza Pachulia is all right on offense. But, I mean, we still have the problem that we knew we were going to have with them, which was who the hell is going to defend the rim? Yeah, nobody's going to be able to defend the rim for the Golden State Warriors. We haven't seen that person yet. They don't have that. They don't have the Andrew Bogut anymore. They don't have Festus Ezeli. They just don't have it. They can't afford it, and that's what happens when you add Kevin Durant to a team. Now, I do like some of the interesting things that they have been able to do defensively in terms of switching and having Draymond Green and Kevin Durant play weak side help defense. That's terrifying. Is it not? Is that not terrifying? I think that is fairly disturbing to have either one of those guys, especially Durant with that length. Dude's a pterodactyl. Kevin Durant's a pterodactyl. I mean, he just comes in with those arms, and like that's a block shot. I like what the Warriors are doing in the way that they are constructed, obviously. Who wouldn't? But I thought that there was going to be an ego point, right? Like, just like, how are these guys going to fit together? There was a little bit of that in Miami with the Heat. You have those when you throw a couple of stars together on a team. Like one guy's got to figure out how to gel in, and the Warriors haven't taken as long to gel as I would have thought. They have taken a little bit, right? They lose some games that you're like, what? Like head scratchers. They lost to the Lakers the other day, which is not a bad loss, by the way. This Lakers team is fun to watch. And I never thought I'd say that this soon, that the Lakers would be exciting to actually watch play sports. But they are. But I don't think the Warriors should ever have lost to that team, as young as it is and lacking in experience as it is. But regardless, how is it that these guys are going to fit together? I keep hearing the oop-de-doop-de-doop. There's only one ball and 4 guys to shoot it. And that's always been the case. Every team has got a bunch of guys who want to shoot the ball. And I don't know if you know NBA players and the ego that it takes to get to the NBA, but they all think they can shoot. They all think they can shoot. How else would you explain the existence of Josh Smith, a man who shoots below the league average in three-pointers and still shoots as much three-pointers as anybody else playing the game? And Josh Smith loves to shoot, probably a little too much. And that's why he's not in Atlanta anymore. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I don't get it. I'm going to transition a little bit here, transition our way back to football, but we're going to talk about the NFL, and then I've got some thoughts on Louisville and where they're ranked in the college football playoff, because it's a little surprising to me. The college football playoff committee, first off, I think they do a good job for what it is that they're trying to do. It's a tough job, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Let me talk about the NFL, specifically Jared Goff, because Dak Prescott is down in Dallas being a baller. Carson Wentz is over there in Philadelphia. He started off the season being a baller, and now he just looks like an NFL rookie, but like a good NFL rookie, like an above average NFL rookie. This is a guy that came into the NFL and you had a lot of questions about the speed of the game, but he came in. It looks like he's able to digest the material. It doesn't look like the game's too fast for him. Does he make rookie mistakes? Yes, he does. But that's just being a rookie. None of it looks like it's too fast for him, and he doesn't have the benefit that Dak Prescott has over in Dallas of playing behind what is obviously the best offensive line in football. I mean, those guys are huge, and they keep Dak clean. That jersey is white when the game ends. He's not covered in grass stains. Right? If Carson Wentz didn't wear green, you'd see the grass stains. Carson Wentz is getting knocked around. But you know who we haven't seen this year? The number 1 overall pick of the 2016 NFL Draft, one Jared Goff. And I find that interesting on a multitude of levels, right? Level 1 being, how are we at the point where the LA Rams believe that Case Keenum is the guy for that team with Jared Goff on the bench? How did we get to that point? Because Case Keenum's not playing good football. He is a terrible quarterback. And that is objective. That is not a matter of opinion. If your opinion is anywhere in the ballpark of Case Keenum, well, maybe he's serviceable. No, you're wrong. Your opinion is wrong. It is now invalid, and you are invalid. Case Keenum's playing bad football. Ergo, the Rams, who are a pretty decently well-constructed team, are also playing bad football. Now, there's no excuse to play bad football when your quarterback is a veteran. You know what you have in the guy. You know that the guy's not good. But you have a guy on the team that you don't know how good he is at the pro level. That's Jared Goff. So why don't you play him? Well, maybe they do know how good he is. And maybe they know that he ain't that good. You've got a couple of issues with Jared Goff. You've got some big issues with Jared Goff. The first issue with Jared Goff being, in college, Jared Goff did not play in a system conducive to being an NFL quarterback. That's the first issue. the system, he has to learn the NFL system. But so did Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott did not play a pro-style offense in college. And he's come in, he's digested the material, he's become a solid NFL starter in place of Tony Romo. So you're Dallas, you can let Romo's back heal, et cetera, et cetera. You may even be able to win with Prescott into the future, and he is your quarterback of the future. You never had the Tony Romo insurance plan until you stumbled across Dak Prescott. Right? Dak is out here making this thing look easy. Dak didn't play the pro-style offense. Carson Wentz did. But, I mean, look at the list of guys. Jameis Winston played in a pro-style, but Mariota didn't. Mariota started week 1. Great first season. Good second season. So what's the issue with Jared Goff? Well, that brings us to issue number 2 with Jared Goff, which is that not only did he play in a system that was not conducive to playing in the NFL, he's played in a system in college that is the least conducive to playing in the NFL. The least conducive. That is the air raid system. You throw up a bunch of passes, and you throw up a bunch of passes, sometimes typically against teams with slower defenses that cannot cover all 5 of your wide receivers. Every play is a Hail Mary. Every play is a track meet, and you're not really having to, as a quarterback, dissect defenses and break things down and play the mental game of quarterback. You are playing the physical game of quarterback, which is that you are just chucking the ball downfield. Who's open? You. And you just chuck the ball downfield, and you're not having to mentally process anything. Then you go to the NFL where the air raid, A, does not exist, and B, does not work, which is why it does not exist. And suddenly you're out of your depths. You can't play. And I think that if that's the case, the Rams are doing the right thing with Jared Goff to bring him along slowly, right? Don't throw the guy in the fire if you know damn well he's not ready for the fire. You know this, so don't toss him in there, right? That seems to make a ton of sense to me. Jared Goff, if Jared Goff's not Dak Prescott, then he's not Dak Prescott. If he's not Carson Wentz, then he's not Carson Wentz. But you know what the real problem with Jared Goff is? He's the number 1 overall pick in the draft, the first quarterback taken, the first player taken in the draft. So yeah, it does get to be a problem when you've been taken first overall and you can't get on the field. But I feel like I'm going to cut the Rams a little bit of slack here for a couple of reasons. One, the Rams know better than any other team in the league that a quarterback from an air raid system trying to play in the NFL is going to have a hard time. And you know how they know this? Their starting quarterback is Case Keenum, who played at the University of Houston, which ran, when he was there, an air raid system. That's right. Case Keenum also was an air raid quarterback, and he's terrible. The problem that you're going to have with Jared Goff, if you run Jared Goff out there, is he's going to look exactly like Case Keenum. So not just bad, but bad in the same way that Case Keenum is bad. This is not doable if you're Jeff Fisher and the Rams, especially if you're Jeff Fisher, the greatest coach at convincing people for just one more year. Jeff Fisher is better at keeping his job than anybody else on earth. We could all learn from Jeff Fisher, because Jeff Fisher has been a mediocre coach for a really long time now, and he has been hanging on to his job. Like, Jeff Fisher doesn't get fired for any reason from anywhere. I mean, the Titans finally let Jeff Fisher go. He gets scooped up by the Rams, and he has been mediocre with the Rams, and they have not fired him. Jeff Fisher doesn't get fired, and I don't know exactly what he does when he goes into those meetings, what Jeff Fisher says to continue to have a job, but it is very effective. He continues to have a job, despite the fact that we still don't know if Jared Goff can play football. And yeah, you know what? There is a certain level of, well, if they knew he couldn't play, right, why'd they draft him? Well, first off, that's a stupid thing to say, because if they knew he couldn't play, I believe they wouldn't have drafted him. But if you watch Jared Goff play in college, there were a lot of tools there that you believe This guy could be a good NFL quarterback if he could make the transition to the pro game. He's got the toughness, okay, because that offensive line at Cal, boy, I tell you, it was not good. He got beat up a lot. Jared Goff took some shots. Not the fun kind. Kind where you wake up and feel your ribs a little bit. He got knocked around. So you're a team looking at that. That's a good trait. He is an accurate passer, right? Especially on those deep throws. And going vertical is a huge part of the NFL game. So you're thinking to yourself, if we can transition this guy, we could be really good and have a quarterback for the future for the next 10 years going into LA. Jared Goff looks like a Cali kid. It's perfect. We're moving to LA. It's perfect. And then you get Jared Goff and realize, well, he can't play. I don't think if they knew he couldn't play, they would have drafted him. Right? But does that mean that they messed up the draft? Because like conventional wisdom says when you draft a quarterback that high, he's got to be ready to go right away. And I have a couple of questions. One being, why? Why does he have to be able to go right away? If you draft a guy number 1 overall, because not every draft gives you good quarterbacks. Some drafts give you straight up garbage. Or need I remind you of the draft that had Tom Brady in it? Tom Brady came out of that draft. They drafted him with pick number 199, the Patriots did. So they didn't know he was that good. And everybody else in the draft turned out to be straight garbage, with the exception of Chad Pennington, who could not ever stay healthy. T. Martin, not in the NFL. Spurgeon Wynn, Giovanni Carmazzi. These are the names that came out of that draft. So you can't, if you've got an opportunity to take a guy this year that could be your guy for the next 10 years, understand that there's no guarantee that the next draft class has a guy like that, or the one after, or the one after that. You don't know. And you don't necessarily know if you'll be bad enough to get a shot at drafting one of those guys. You've got to take a guy that you think can be the guy for the next 10 years, even if he can't start right away. It doesn't matter. You take the best guy on the board according to your metric. If your metric is potential, then take Jared Goff. Like I don't have a problem with them taking Jared Goff at all. But the NFL has become a more impatient league. Like conventional wisdom, like I said, conventional wisdom says if you take a guy that high, he has to be ready to start right away. But that's recent conventional wisdom. That's not the way it always used to be. But your job as a coach is a little hotter these days. I always think back to the Dallas Cowboys and how Tom Landry, as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, he coached the Cowboys for what, six seasons before they had a winning season. That would never happen in today's game. Nobody would ever be that patient with a coach. That's the reason why you draft a quarterback like that these days. The pressure to win is much, much higher, or rather the pressure to win faster. But if Jeff Fisher is secure in his job, and he is Jeff Fisher, and so I assume is always secure in his job because he's unfireable. Like, can you fire him? Can you actually fire Jeff Fisher? Zombie of coaches, man. Like, you really can't fire the guy. I don't think the Rams made a mistake with Jared Goff in that sense. I do think that if Jared Goff comes out and plays like booty, well, then now we have a problem. He wasn't good enough to get on the field originally, and then now you were bringing him along slowly. You were giving him patience. You were trying to teach him from the sideline, let him hold a clipboard, let him learn the game mentally first before we throw him to the wolves. Okay, but when his time comes up, he better ball. That's where we're at. When Jared Goff is good to go, when? He better ball out. He doesn't get to sit back and stink. Right? If you threw him to the wolves initially, then everyone's like, okay, he's a rookie. He looks bad, but he'll get better. The guy along slowly because you say that that's what he needs, fine. But when he's ready to go, he better ball. Period. End of story. Or that's a job that even Jeff Fisher can't save. And then he should go coach college and convince kids to play for him with whatever sales pitch it is that he uses to keep his jobs right now. You're listening to Hot 1240. Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose, Bobby Petrino, Louisville, they have a problem. And their problem is they don't know what the College Football Playoff Committee wants. And the Playoff Committee, to their eternal credit, has one of the most difficult jobs in sports outside of refereeing, which is that they've got to figure out who the best teams in college football are for a 4-team playoff. The problem is you've got more than 4 really good teams. So what do? So you try not to use all these inhuman metrics to figure out what the best team is. You've got a committee of human beings who've played the game, older people who've been around, mentally knowledgeable about the sport, right? But the problem is you still end up relying on metrics. You have no choice. The College Football Playoff Committee, they talk about how, your margin of victory doesn't necessarily dictate where you land in the playoff. And your strength of schedule does not alone dictate these things, where you land in the rankings. Except that all of those things seem to be true about Louisville. Louisville has not played a very strong schedule. They're a 1-loss team. Their only loss is to Clemson, who's the number 2 team in the country. It was a close game. Louisville has been scorching everybody they've played. The problem is they only have 1 team with a winning record on their schedule. So you're thinking to yourself, well, they ought to scorch everybody that they're playing. But they're not just scorching everybody that they're playing. They're putting them in the ground. These are not 30-point victories for Louisville. They're 60-point victories for Louisville. And before you go, well, the margin of victory doesn't matter, it kind of does, right? Because if they're good enough to smoke a team by 60, then they're doing something right. Sure, the competition's not necessarily there. But now you've got Texas A&M ranked ahead of Louisville. Texas A&M, who unfairly or not, you can judge them that they've lost to Alabama, and they lost to Alabama by a lot. So Alabama's the best team in the nation. They beat Texas A&M. Texas A&M's ranked 4th. Clemson's the second best team in the nation. They beat Louisville. Louisville is ranked 6th. So either you're saying the difference between the gap of 1 and 2 is so wide that Texas A&M can be seen as better, despite the fact that they got baptized by Alabama. Okay, Alabama took them to the woodshed and just beat them like they stole something. That is something that you cannot overlook, where Louisville loses to the second best team in the nation in a close game, right? Like they needed all of that Deshaun Watson magic, Clemson did, to get out. That's a close game. And despite all that, we've got Louisville at 6th. And I'm not saying Louisville ought to be ranked higher. But what I am saying is that if you start to point out the inconsistencies in what the College Football Playoff Committee is doing, you will find them. And I think that these are good questions to ask now rather than once we've decided all 4 of the teams in the playoff. Better questions to ask at this very moment. Because if you wait until all 4 teams are decided to the playoff, then you've got even that problem. Should Louisville even be in the playoff? Like if Louisville wins out, they remain a 1-loss team, right? And they're like the only, or the one of the top 1-loss teams left. And they can't be a conference champion. They're not able to beat Clemson, let's say. Well then, even though conference champions are favored, the College Football Playoff Committee has said that you don't necessarily have to win your college football playoff. But if you favor the college football, or if you favor the conference championship, and we've seen the precedent set time and time again with the Big 12, if you favor the conference championship, then there are enough conference champions that no one is ever going to be a non-conference champion who's going to be more heavily favored than a conference champion. The 2 of those criteria that you have, they don't even mix. It doesn't make any sense. And it's not the committee's fault. It's the rules that they've been kind of hamstrung by. You're listening to Hot 1240, Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch Mr. Keon Rose, thank you for joining me today, making me just a small part of your day. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch. Don't you go anywhere. Alex Jones is coming up next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field line failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
At Eyer Optical, it's a well-known fact. When you buy one pair of glasses, you get a second pair absolutely free. But did you know Eyer Optical has the largest eyeglass selection in the area, with top-name brands and styles in the latest trends? Schedule your appointment with one of the doctors today for a comprehensive eye exam. And remember, when you buy one pair of glasses, you get a second pair absolutely free. Visit EyerOptical.com for a location near you.
Eyer Optical.
Finding just the right place to live can be a daunting task. Stop your search. In Chattanooga, the place to live is Cross Creek Villas for under $1,000 and available for immediate move-in. You can enjoy this 2-bedroom split layout, over 1,000 square feet, 9-foot ceilings, an extra large patio or balcony. And don't forget to ask about their preferred employer program. Cross Creek Villas is a gated community offering a 24-hour fitness facility, a beautiful pool and hot tub, and Cross Creek Villas is pet friendly. Stroll the pet park with your best friend and enjoy the free use of their business center and clubhouse. Plus, if you mention you heard this on the radio, your application fee is free. Cross Creek Villas, close to downtown off of Highway 58. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com. That's crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446. That's 894-0446. Redefine the way you live at Cross Creek Villas. Go to crosscreekchattanooga.com or call 894-0446.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
Calls for unity.
Donald Trump is going to be our president.
We are now all rooting for his success.
Reality sinks in.
Shocked.
I was shocked.
I'm optimistic, so hopefully there'll be some good changes coming.
This is the CBS World News Roundup, late edition. I'm Bill Whitney. A stunned Hillary Clinton said nothing to her supporters last night, but they reassembled this morning to hear her concede the presidential race to Donald Trump. Correspondent Steve Futterman reports.
After what must have been one of the most disappointing nights of her life, Hillary Clinton emerged here in New York to face the cameras and the American people.
This is painful.
Just 24 hours earlier, she expected to be the president-elect. Now she was congratulating Donald Trump, her bitter antagonist during the past year.
We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead.
There was visible emotion, tears in Clinton's eyes, but in the end, she carried on an American tradition, urging the peaceful transition of power.
Our best days are still ahead of us.
Steve Futterman, CBS News, New York.
President Obama might be the second most disappointed Democrat, but today he put the wheels in motion for an orderly transfer of power.
Standing in the White House Rose Garden, the president acknowledged the agony of defeat, but said it's time to unite behind his Republican successor.
We have to remember that We're actually all on one team.
Once branding Donald Trump unfit to